It's MIB, it's MIB, it's midnight in Baghdad. It's MIB, it's MIB, it's midnight in Baghdad. It's MIB, it's MIB, it's midnight in Baghdad. It's MIB, it's MIB, it's midnight in Baghdad.
You are listening to a Slippery When Wet production. This show contains themes of an adult and controversial nature. If you're a snowflake, then switch off now. Yes, folks, it's that time again. So strap in, kick back, and leave your morality at the door. It is Midnight in Baghdad with your hosts, Goldie Metcalf and Charlie Naughton.
It is Midnight in Baghdad, episode 56. I'm Goldie Metcalf.
I'm Charlie Naughton.
And here we are, guys, for the season special.
Penultimate show.
I need to open it up a little bit with an apology here, folks. I sent out a message there today on all our social media, basically saying that we're having a Christmas special and it was going to be a cracker. And we, after I sent that out, we got a lot of emails and messages into the show. We do cater for all religions, and it was probably a bit silly of me to narrow it down to a Christmas special, because we do celebrate all kind of religions and beliefs. And so my apologies for that, folks. Season's greetings and happy holidays to you all. And we didn't mean anything by the term cracker as a racial term whatsoever. Charlie, how have you been? Did you see the comment today? What was your thoughts on it?
I didn't, actually. That's the first I've heard of it. I've been trying to stay away from social media for the last 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, so indeed you have. Well, coming up tonight on our show...
Was it an anonymous comment?
No, we got a number of comments in. It went a bit viral, to say the least, in its own way.
That's our worst fear.
It really is, isn't it? But tonight on the show, we have the vaccine controversy. We have a gay Santa. We have a hitman website. Nappies in space. Cryogenics. And, of course, we have our agony aunt. That, again, apologies, folks. We didn't get to it last show, did we, Charlie?
No, we did, yeah.
Oh, we did, because I had a message from yourself earlier on to say that we didn't get to it. So you're happy to leave it towards the end of the show?
No, whenever suits you, Goldie, yeah,
we'll do it at the end. So, and we're going to kick off the show as we always do, but in the last couple of weeks with Charlie's Corner. Charlie, what have you got in your corner in relation to sex dolls this week? What's the latest update?
Well, interestingly, the one time we start, I suppose, making it a part of the show, there's suddenly not that much about it. But 2 weeks ago, so since the last time we discussed it on the show, there was two items on the Sun and the Daily Star, which I know you love. You love those papers. So
good tabloids.
They're great tabloids. And the first one that I want to talk about is the first lesbian sex robots may be coming soon, as sex bots are being programmed to be gay. Okay.
We have Heartbeat here. He's disconnected. We'll let him come in for a moment there. We have a caller into the show. Okay. Heartbeat, we send you the link. Join us there when you can. So continue on, Charlie.
Well, it just seems like an odd one, whether the robot should be gay or not. And because it doesn't matter how you use the robot is up to you. I would have thought to have a sex robot is whoa. Charlie is here. Is Goldie still here?
Goldie
has he been assassinated? Thank God.
I thought maybe. Heartbeat, welcome to the show. What have you called in and what would you like to say?
Hello.
Hello, Heartbeat.
You've got our heartbeats racing with that
You have
accent.
them racing like 90. What can we do for you tonight, Heartbeat?
Thanks so much for that, Heartbeat. Always good to hear positive, I suppose, feedback about the show, Goldie. And that's the first, in all our years of doing it, that's the first bit of unbiased feedback we've gotten.
It is. Thanks very much for your comment, Heartbeat. So, Charlie, talk to us again. So you think these robots should not be necessarily straight or gay? They can be whatever the user wants them to be.
Exactly. Why limit it? Because you're going to limit your audience. At the end of the day, sex robots are a business. If I'm making sex robots, I want to sell as many of them as I can. By marketing them to the LGBT plus community, as lovely as that is, they are a minority as a kind of business base.
Presumably, these robots have to be programmed in a particular way, and that's what they're referring to.
As in to say they want
to say, I'd imagine that the how they act or the programming would be different if they were gay or if they were straight, because they'd have to say different things and use different grammar and things like that.
Like what kind of stuff, Goldie?
Well, for the obvious one would be him and her. Like, what words are they going to say? Then you've obviously got the non-binary options. So I think the fact that they're catering for everything is good.
I suppose when you put it that way, yeah, they're being very PC.
Because if it was an inanimate doll, then it doesn't matter because it's not going to do anything. But when you're talking about a robot, you're expecting it to be lifelike, so it'll have to be programmed accordingly.
But your fantasy is to make the robot fall for you, to make the robot want to have sex, not just have sex whenever you want. So wouldn't it be great if you bought a straight sex doll and manage?
Thanks for that, Heartbeat. Heartbeat, we're just going to let you go there. Thanks very much for calling in. It's much appreciated, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. So Charlie, I don't
get a dose for our own medicine there, Goldie.
We've talked about that previously on our show about what we'd all want from sex dolls. So we don't need to go into that again. Yes. But no, I definitely think it's a good idea to cater for all sexual preferences.
It's a lovely idea, yes. So on the Sun website, they suggested the next step will be to have a transgender robot. Now, that kind of defies, I think, a bit of a logic,
Absolutely, but wouldn't
is that pushing it a step too far?
No, it's not. It's whatever people want to buy, leave them off. But I wonder, will it be like a transformer? Would it be more cost effective for them to all have penises, and then you press a button and it kind of folds in to become a vagina, if that's what you want, and then it's it just flips out then. For the penis.
I'd love it. I'd love that kind of sex robot.
It'd probably be more cost effective to just make one type rather than lots of different types. So, but that's good because it's interchangeable then, and good resale value too.
Yeah, and your sexual preferences change naturally over the course of your own life. And if you want to sell it on adverts, they
say people change themselves, they shed their skin and become somewhat of a new person every 7 years. So yeah, who knows in 7 years' time? I was working it out, given our age. I'll be 42 before I start my next life or my next self. And who knows what that brings? When you think about it, when you were 7 years of age and then you're 14, there's a very big difference. There's a massive difference between 14 and 21. Not so much 14 and 16, but 14 and 21, 21, 28, 28, 35. And now we're in the 7th cycle as such, or the 6th cycle. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what comes down the line, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I'm 42 now, so I'll keep you informed.
Do. You're always a little bit behind the times, though, when it comes to things like that. Thanks for Charlie's Corner and the update on the sex dolls. Much appreciated. We'll bring you one on our next show, even though it's as boring as it is to me. I'm sure it is for you guys as well. But Charlie insists. Judge in Rittenhouse case slammed with accusations of bias. Now, I'm sure, Charlie, you're aware of the Kyle Rittenhouse case that's been in our headlines for the last couple of weeks.
I am. I'm just trying to type it in here as quick as I can. Yeah. Tell us about it, Goldie.
Well, this is, of course, the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, who is, or was, I suppose, on trial for the murder, attempted murder, and attempted... the wording is actually interesting, if I can try find it. I can't remember. He was on trial for basically shooting people during a protest in the States in Wisconsin. And I'm sure you heard about. Is this case familiar to you at all, Charlie? Am I ringing
it
the
is.
bell?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So we know that a black male was shot by police in the back, I think 5 times, and the trial went on, and the police officer was cleared, which sparked violence in the state. And Kyle Rittenhouse, as we know, travelled from his state. I can't recall exactly. Maybe Ron McClellan, who's listening, thanks for coming in, can let us know that he travelled from his state with essentially an AR-15 or an AR-15 like weapon to protect property that was not his own against protesters. And I think during the course of this, he basically became set upon by a couple of males, one who was armed but didn't shoot, and he was chased, and there's video footage of him running, and next thing he turns and he shoots 3 people. I think he shoots 4 people. I think 2 are dead, and the other is severely injured. And the big case divided a nation. Tell me how it divided the nation, Charlie, in the sense of was he justified or was he not?
Yeah, I suppose some people saying it was self-defense and that he was, exercising his right to have a weapon and defend himself when he's under attack, which I presume you wouldn't deny he was under attack.
Yeah, and that's I think where the big divide comes, because if this was a simple case that he was protecting his own property in his own state, I think many Americans and indeed other people from around the world would maybe accept that. Yeah. He had a right to protect his property and he was set upon and whatever. But the problem is that the fact that he travelled and he wasn't even protecting property of his own has really caused a massive, massive divide.
Yeah. And travelling with this weapon.
Yeah. And I think,
which would have indicated premeditation, wouldn't it?
Well, premeditate to protect. Do you know what I mean? And it comes down to a question of, now I think we all know in our heart and souls, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, that he travelled there looking for action. Like, let's be honest. I think that's the issue. He did travel there looking for action, and he was prepared to act if necessary. And I think it says more about America than it does about that particular individual and that particular incident. Like, in what world is it okay for somebody to travel with a fucking semi-automatic rifle, walking down the street for hours without nobody stopping you to check who you are? Have you got a permit? Like, how that even happened in the first place is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but he wouldn't
21
be the
miles
only one.
across state lines, Romo Clan says.
Right.
21 miles.
Now, does the fact that he moved across state have anything, specifically to do with it? I mean, if he'd moved 21 miles within his own state to go to this protest, would it have affected anything, or is there something about the fact he crossed state lines?
Well, I guess it is, in a sense. I can see where you're coming from. In a sense, does it matter if it was 20 miles within his own state? I suppose from a psychological point of view, a different state seems like an entirely different place, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I said to you I was going into town or I was going to Cork, you'd know immediately that I'm going to a completely different place from a psychological point of view. From a legal point of view, obviously every state has its own laws, and I'll admit that I don't know what the particular laws are in relation to those states. Can you cross state lines in between those two states with firearms? I don't know, but I think that's irrelevant because wasn't the weapon he had illegal? He illegally held it.
Oh, I didn't know it was an illegal weapon. Sorry.
Yeah, he illegally held it, and that's the thing. He's done this and he hasn't been challenged. So if the gun crossed bad, but it was in Wisconsin at a friend's, I see. Okay, so he personally crossed 21 miles into a different state, but he didn't bring the weapon with him.
I wonder, Goldie, when you asked me if I'm familiar with this trial, I'm wondering, are you familiar with this trial at all?
I'll be honest with you, Charlie. I'm kind of at a high level. I didn't look into the kind of micro of every little detail of the trial, but it was something that I kind of, you looked at headlines as the weeks went on. But okay, does that change things a little bit? Maybe slightly, but he still walked around that place for hours with that weapon, and was. But
he went to the protest presumably then unarmed or intending to go unarmed, and maybe his friend, like if it was me, you might have said, "Oh, look, there's going to be trouble tonight. Take my weapon."
Well, no, I think it's been proven that he actually did travel there with the intention of getting involved, and trying to be a good American, do his civil duty to protect property. That's the party line in relation to his defence.
Yeah. Do you believe that?
No, not for a second. I think, as I said earlier on, I think he did go with the intention of using the firearm if necessary. He went looking for action under this guise, which he truly believes, of protecting property or whatever, but I think the problem, I'm torn in this case, because while I don't agree with that, I have to agree with his right to protect himself. So it becomes a question of how much responsibility does he have to bear for putting himself into that position, or is that irrelevant? Is the fact that he put himself into that position irrelevant because at that moment in time his life was threatened and he acted in a way that's actually in accordance with law,
and he's found innocent as
and
well.
We'll get to that in a moment, but that's what kind of divides me, and I can see why the nation is divided. While he was there, I totally say it's wrong what he did going there. He took the law into his own hands. That's the job for the police, whether they're inept or capable or not. It's up to the police to protect stuff. If it's your own property, yeah, that's different. Protect your own property, no problem. But I don't agree with how he travelled. But I'm torn in the sense of, he also had the right to protect himself. He should be judged separately, perhaps, for the fact that he travelled. Not judged by law, but judged by circumstance or outcome. So it's really a tough one for me. What do you think about it?
Well, can I just ask you, so the place he went to, was it protests or was it really, to be honest, rioting, wasn't it?
It was rioting. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And, there was rioting. Properties were being burned and damaged and things like that. So there was a need to protect property, but, there's people that that's their jobs to do,
Yes, but they weren't doing it, as you said yourself, or weren't doing it sufficiently. I don't buy his story.
I'm not going to criticize another state's police force or emergency response force, whatever it is. It is what it is, and that's what their role is. And again, they'll be judged on whether they did an adequate job or not. But I think individuals have to. I don't see how people can go out and wreck their town and then turn around the following week and complain about how it wasn't dealt with properly. These are the people that are responsible for it. I'm not saying the whole population was, but it's usually the people that are the most vocal about it are the ones that are actually probably causing it.
Of course, yeah. About it. But the police did support him, telling him, we appreciate you, we really do, that kind of thing. So he probably believed he had the support of the armed forces.
Yeah, and the fact that he wasn't stopped kind of shows that, But what became even more, I suppose, interesting and popular about this story is the court case itself, not just the incident. And I suppose you kind of one without the other, but the judge, as we said in our headline, judge in Rittenhouse case slammed with accusation of bias. So there was massive issues here with the judge and how he dealt with this case. Have you read into any of this, Charlie?
No.
Okay, so
I still know more than you don't. But
the judge in this case, seemed to be biased in favor of Rittenhouse throughout the whole trial. That he's
from the beginning,
yeah, he's clearly kind of this Republican type person, kind of supporter of Bush, whatever, all the kind of things you would expect. And it's known, when you watch movies and things like that, and you see prosecutors and defense talking about the judge that they have coming up for their next trial and how it's a good judge for them and things like that. So judges, obviously,
yes,
the law is an interpretation, isn't it? So judges kind of sometimes act not with consistency, but the defense were really happy to have this judge. And I'm just going to read out some of the things that happened throughout the case. On one of the days, the judge's phone rang briefly, and the ringtone was "God Bless the USA," which is
the same as
Trump's fucking rally song. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So people were saying, so is this accident or is it design? Was this judge really trying to sway a jury here? And I think that's the question that's been asked in relation to the bias. The judge did not allow the prosecutors to describe the two men Rittenhouse killed as victims. he said it was a loaded term. It's, you know, it's almost, they're only victims if he's guilty, do you know?
Yes,
But
okay.
he said he would allow the defense refer to them as looters and arsonists if they could prove that they were. Now, I'm 50-50 with this. I kind of like this judge a little bit. I'm kind of a little bit like him because he's very clever. Because you're right, you're not a victim. If he's found innocent, or it's proved that it was self-defense, well, then he's actually the victim, not the other guys. Are
I
they
see
all
what you mean,
victims?
yeah.
Do you understand? So the
those,
judge is actually
yeah,
very clever in this.
but those two
And
men still are victims. They just mightn't be victims of Rittenhouse. They're victims of someone.
yeah, but he's thinking
You
that
know.
that in the mind of a jury, that could actually persuade him. Using that word could persuade him in one
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And I think it's
smart.
very, very interesting. It's definitely very interesting. But he also allows them to call looters and arsonists if it can be proven. So I do think there's some consistency being shown there. He called for a break in the trial when Rittenhouse cried on the stand. You know, I don't know if you saw it, but Rittenhouse himself, which would be unusual sometimes for the accused to get in to take the stand, but he cried, and you know, he put on essentially what people are calling a show, that it was acted out and stuff like that.
And what did you think of his performance? I mean, have you watched it?
Well, you see, when you say performance, you're already casting aspersions on it, aren't you? I think there's everything in it. I think he is shitting himself. I think.
But anyone would be Goldie, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. But I think he's doing what he needs to do. He's not. He's a smart enough kid. Like, do you know what I mean? He knows what he needs to do, and that probably would have been rehearsed, and you know, he would have had a couple of trial runs at that, I think, in advance, and not necessarily the whole crying and emotion thing, but answering the questions in practice, as you see them do in movies. I'm sure that happens in real life. And he was probably told to put a bit of emotion into it and stuff, and he just gave a stellar thing at the end, which I think sums up, like, is it remorse or is it guilt, or is it, I think it's a bit of everything. Do you know? There's some genuineness in there, but it's definitely exaggerated.
And of course, there's nothing wrong if he does feel guilt. You can kill someone in self-defense and still feel horrific guilt, you know.
Of course you could, especially when you're facing life or whatever it is, you know. Another
okay,
thing.
So 2 questions for you, Goldie. Do you think the judge was planted, or do you think it was just a look at a draw for the defense that they got this judge?
Again, you know, and maybe, you know, how much of Hollywood is real? Like, if you ever watch the likes of Billions or any of these kind of shows that involves law, and you see attorney generals making deals, you see them making deals, all sorts of crazy, shady deals. So yeah, am I maybe blinded by that, or am I, you know, influenced by that a little bit? I don't. It's not beyond the realms of possibility where the state maybe said to themselves, do you know what? We have to fucking do something here. Do you know, there will be anarchy if we don't do something here. So the deal was to charge them when they probably didn't want to, or just felt necessitated to. And potentially they organised for a particular judge that they would be fairly confident they'd actually get the result they wanted. That would, do you know what I mean, would come across as fair.
Which isn't to be found innocent.
Yeah, and you know, the next question then is, did they influence that judge more, or did they just pick the judge and let the judge do his job impartially, but knowing the political agenda or political mind of the judge? You know, there was still room there for Rittenhouse to go down, but they were playing the percentages. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what our listeners think.
Well, I was shocked he got off though. I would have thought, let's say you got your DA and so on in that county. I would have thought this is okay. Maybe not a slam dunk case, but I would have thought they were shocked that they didn't get, you know, a guilty verdict. No, I was shocked when he got off. Were you not?
No, I don't think it was. Okay. It was just a case of just because. I suppose, from, as I said, I didn't follow it in depth, but just from reading the headlines and now you're looking at this stuff with what was happening in the trial and how the prosecutors were getting slammed by the judge and all these kind of things. No, I wasn't surprised. in the slightest.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have been surprised either if he was prosecuted. Do you know what I mean? It really was a 50-50 thing, in my view. And apparently the highlight of the case was when the judge himself, Schroeder, he was spotted flipping through a cookie catalogue while he was up on the bench. Now, if you're viewing this on Facebook or anything like that, you'll see the picture. But the judge is sitting there, and he's literally reading like an Argos catalogue for cookies, which in itself is actually amazing that they have that.
A whole catalogue just for cookies.
A whole catalogue just for cookies. Now, it's not as thick as an Argos catalogue, but it's maybe like a quarter the size, or thereabouts.
Brilliant.
But it's crazy. But at the same time, how much of social media do we believe here? Is that a photo that was taken during a recess or before the court had started? Is the judge really, while evidence is being heard, sitting up there going, what type of fucking cookie am I going to get? Do you know what I mean? There is a difference.
I know what you mean. But I suppose the judge doesn't have anything to do unless one of the lawyers, calls him up on something.
Well, no, the judge has to listen to everything and take notes, and like it's not just.
Have you never, sat down and started trolling through your phone when you're on duty in whatever your employment is, or are you from 9 to 5, 100% dedicated to your job? Nobody is.
Yeah, it's difference between like sitting at your desk or whatever, going for a shit and going onto your phone, than actually doing it while you're working in such a public forum. That's getting so much headlines and attention. I don't know. I'll reserve judgment on that because I don't know when the photo was taken, during it or during some kind of recess or as they were starting or whatever. I don't know. But it's definitely bad judgment either way, because the picture alone paints 1,000 words, as they say. And, you should know better than to put yourself into that kind of position. That's all I'd say on that particular matter.
Okay. You know what I'd love? I'd love if we could hear Anthony Hoyes' opinion on this case. Now, I know he can't. He's disappeared from the world of podcasts.
Anthony's keeping a low profile at the moment.
Yeah.
But we've been inundated over the last couple of weeks with people looking to get onto the show. You've seen some of the emails and messages that we've got. I think
I was hoping to say we were inundated with people who've seen Anthony. I thought you were going to say people saw him in Centra buying a burger, or he was spotted wearing
Anthony
a baseball
has been
cap.
Confirmed. He's confirmed alive anyway.
Has he? Okay, thanks for letting me know. I haven't spoken to you in months.
There's no need to worry about him.
Okay, great.
But yeah, we'll hopefully in the new year, folks, we'll have some guests on our show from time to time. Going on to our next story, okay, we're talking about the vaccine controversy, and it's very hard not to, have a show these days and not talk about COVID or a vaccine in some kind of way, because it's just constantly in our face. But the headline here, and I think you sent this to me, Charlie: Italian anti-vaxxer attempts to get COVID vaccine in fake arm. Tell me about this story. Are people that desperate?
Well, you see, this is the thing. This guy was a health worker. Now, they didn't say... So this was in Italy, maybe, 2 months ago at this point. But yeah, being in the health service, whatever he was, whether he was a nurse, a doctor, or, even if it was just an attendant in a hospital, you have to be vaccinated. So if you remember a few months ago, you discussed this in terms of an American hospital, that was going to have to close down. Because they were making it mandatory, weren't they, that everyone be vaccinated if they wanted to work there. So in his state, in Italy, in Biella, I think it is, everyone who was working in the health service had to be vaccinated. So he must really believe that there is something dodgy in the vaccine. He wasn't, the way we've often said that a lot of protesters are just people looking for trouble, or people with an agenda just to try to knock the government or to criticize any kind of public policy. This guy was the opposite. He was trying to keep quiet about it and acting like he did, he was part of the whole vaccine program. So he goes along to his vaccination center clinic, and he was wearing a fake silicone arm, and then produced
probably taking off one of your sex dolls.
Yeah, and then the arm started saying, "Oh, stick it in me now, because it was one of the gay sex dolls. But the problem was, the nurse went to put the needle in the wrong arm, as in his real arm, and he went mental and turned his body around so that she would have to put it in the fake arm. and he insisted on it in the fake arm.
Okay.
And that was what gave the game away when he called it his fake arm.
No, it's not quite like that, surely, is it? But it's funny because when I went to get the vaccine, I kind of got a choice. I was like, "What arm do you want it in?"
Okay.
Did you get a choice?
I don't believe in vaccinations of any form. So
okay, are you this guy?
I got a choice.
I
got a choice whether to take the vaccine or not. If that's what you mean, Goldie, I chose to abstain. I don't want to be tracked by the government.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
So
no. Yeah, I was given a choice too. Yeah, I think I made a very infantile joke, as a lot of blokes would.
No, you did, and that's fine. That's what we're all about here on the show. So he drew attention to himself and presented the fake arm, so to speak.
Yes,
and
the nurse got suspicious because of the color of the skin on the arm.
It's probably like it was, I don't know what ethnicity he was, but if he was white and he had a black arm or something, like it would have been a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, they didn't go into more detail, but I presume that isn't what they mean. Like maybe just the color didn't
a different
look
shade
like a natural skin
or
color,
yellow or tan or something like
Yeah, like imagine an Italian will be quite tanned.
But you have to be.
But you would think you would go to a bit more trouble, wouldn't you? Like, wouldn't the very least that you do if you're going to go to this length not to get a vaccine, you'll stick your two arms out in the mirror before you leave the house, and you'll think, right, did he look? If he's really skinny like me, did he go and get a big buff arm? Or if he's really hairy, was the other arm? Yeah. Like he must have been a little bit.
Let's say, Charlie, even for a moment, that they were actually perfectly matching colours and whatever. And he went, did he really not think that they were going to fucking cop it? Like, these are medical professionals. Now I know I don't know, maybe some countries have civilians. When I say civilian, I mean like, people who aren't full nurses, or they might have, pharmacists, for example, can give the vaccine. So are the profession of these people giving them out in Italy somewhat diminished from what would be standard, that he could hope for the best? Because if they are nurses or they are people who are medically trained, you're going, like, even if you're not medically trained, let's be honest, you're going to notice something.
Yeah, you'd imagine. You would really imagine, yeah. Unless he was just planning on someone doing 100 of these a day or 200 a day, and it was no more than scanning a roll through a till in Spa.
Well, I can tell you, he probably would have got away with it when I got my first vaccine, because I got mine kind of last minute, and I went in, and there was about 20 of us or whatever, and like they were writing down on slips of paper, right, what's your name, and then like they were it was like a cattle mart. They called your name between you got stabbed and you went out, and then I got no fucking cert because there's no record of me type of thing. Like, it was ridiculous.
Really?
So maybe he would have had a chance over here.
Well, actually, Goldie, now that you say it, since I sent that story to you, my mum told me about a cousin's boyfriend who was getting the booster. And there was about 10 of them in the pharmacy at the same time in a room getting the booster. And this guy was given the booster, and there was a man next to him who was obviously due to get the next shot. But the nurse wasn't paying attention and went to give the guy, the same guy who'd just gotten the booster, about to give him a second booster shot. Now, this guy's only in his 20s or whatever, so he would have been okay. But can you imagine if it was someone in their 60s or 70s getting a double dose of,
because the first one is bad enough on the system, isn't it? Like, it takes it out of you.
Well, the booster, I don't know. I haven't heard much about the booster taking much out of you, does it? Or
yeah, no, I had it myself, and like, you get that kind of dead arm feeling, but it was really intense on this one. And, trying to sleep at night was tough because, if you turned over onto your right side or whatever side you got the injection in, you'd wake up in kind of a bit of pain. And then the next day it was just like a bad hangover. So it does take it out of you. So you can imagine getting two is wrong, but it just shows you how overworked these people are. And I suppose, God loves a trier. And as we say in Ireland, we love chancers. So, if he had gotten away with it, he'd be a legend, wouldn't he? Like, he as foolish as he is, he in his own little circle, he would have been a legend.
Of course, you can imagine him WhatsApping his mates, and inevitably, within 24 hours, it'll be out. And then he's fucked anyway.
Yeah, he's screwed anyway.
And then he's fucked. But the gas thing is, the story reminded me of a story about a year ago in America, and it's the total opposite story. It's when they introduced the vaccinations, but only the elderly could get them. And two young women, I don't know if you saw it, I don't know if I ever sent it to you, two young women disguised themselves as old ladies to get the vaccine, and they got caught, and it was videoed. The guy was videoing them because they wouldn't let him. Like it was actually the most pathetic old lady disguise. Imagine if we were doing an old lady disguise. So you
it
go
was
and you
probably
get
like the fucking masks we had on for the show a while back.
and stick on that headscarf.
Yeah.
So, and the guy was asking them would they remove the headscarf, so that he could see them, and they were like refusing, and they were trying to talk in an old lady voice as well. So he was videoing it, obviously, to cover himself. So that was it. It just shows how the world has kind of come full circle to people desperate to get a vaccination because they thought it was the answer to all the problems. To now someone who's desperate going to huge measures to avoid getting a vaccine.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are being persuaded now. We see the vaccination centres are inundated at the moment with people. And, obviously, no doubt mistakes are going to be made when it's that busy. But, I think people who were maybe on the fence before, there's different tiers of people. You're either fully into vaccines, you're getting it because you don't want the hassle of not traveling, or, there's different reasons why people get it. And there's like an almost a tier system down to the very end where people are just staunch, they don't want it, and then people who don't want it but are kind of can be persuaded, and I think we're seeing those people now starting to actually get it.
Maybe. I wonder how many people genuinely do big research. I didn't, into it before I got my initial vaccinations. Had a quick look. I trusted the government, to be honest.
Yeah, I did a bit research, but like again, not going into massive details because you look at websites
about as much as you did on the Kyle Rittenhouse
on the Kyle Rittenhouse case, pretty much, yeah. But no, you'd open up these documents and they're like scientific documents and they're like fucking tiny, like they purposely fucking format them in like fucking Times Roman 10 or 8 or something, so you have to fucking zoom into it and it goes on for fucking hours. So
and they hammer in loads of big words in the first paragraph. If you made it through the first paragraph, you'd probably be fine.
So no, but I did a kind of an overview, and I kind of got views from different people and whatever. And funnily enough, I was listening to a show called Hit the Lotto. Check it out, folks. And they had a microbiologist on it, and all the questions I had in my head, the rationale that I had in my head for not getting it, or for being concerned about getting it, were alleviated. Because, how did they get it out so fast, being kind of the number one? And then when it's explained to you that the reasons why they get it out so fast, because they have, I think one of the biggest things with other research and cancer research and stuff like that is that they don't have enough volunteers to test. But with COVID, they had so many. And the fact that, world governments were working together and finances were unlimited and all these kind of other factors. And it kind of answered all my questions. And I was like, well, that makes sense to me. Is it true? I don't know. But it's enough for me to make sense of it and go, okay, yeah, I'm happy enough to go get this now.
Right.
Did you do? You obviously said you didn't do much research.
No, I didn't really.
You're a little bit of a follower, Charlie, though, aren't you? Like, if the government tells you to do something, you're going to do it because you trust them. As crazy as that sounds, you trust your government, don't you?
Not so much the government, but I would trust, in this case, the health service that were telling me it. Yeah, I was trusting the doctors. I was trusting the science as opposed to the government. But yeah, I do place my faith in people who I would view as authorities. Yeah.
Well, I guess
more so than you, I think. Yeah.
The thing about science and trusting science, it's all very well and good, but you're not educated in the field of science, so you're not really trusting science. You're trusting the people that are telling you about the science. Isn't that what you're doing? And obviously, some people would call you a sheep. Like, you're a classic sheep. Let's be honest about it. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because the term sheep is what, for want of a better word, idiots say to rationalize, when they can't come up with some logic or they can't come up with a good reason, they've nothing more intelligent or somewhat intelligent to say, they just call you a sheep. So it's a derogatory thing, but actually it's like the term nerd, and we said that before on the show. And a nerd is a derogatory thing, but it's actually, as Romo Clown would always say, they always rule the world. They rule the world. So yeah, you're happy to be a sheep, Charlie, aren't you?
No, I'm not a sheep.
No, you are, though, and I know the reason why you want to say you're not, but you are.
I'd say you're the sheep, to be honest. I would always have thought that about you. Like,
that I was a sheep.
The minute some new fad is out, some new WhatsApp or some new app or some new fad, you jump on it and you're doing it. And then when you'll say it to me and I say, I don't know that. And say, what? How can you not know that? How can you not be doing it? Because you're attracted, but you're like a magpie. You're attracted by the new thing, and I love that about you. You give it a go. You try it. You do it.
Call me a magpie. I'm happy for you to call me a magpie. Calling me a sheep, yeah, I can kind of see your angle, but it's a little bit of a stretch. I'd say I'm more kind of willing to experiment and try new things. But I'll 100% accept
as long as it's new. Yeah.
If it's new, yeah, let's check it out. What's the latest advancement? What am I missing here? Absolutely, yeah. But call me the magpie. Don't call me a sheep. You're the sheep.
I'd say you're the sheep.
I know we're not going to get. We've an hour and 20 minutes left in the show. We spend it. No, you're a sheep.
It's the panto show, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh no,
behind
you. Oh, brilliant.
Okay, will we do the agony aunt?
No, that brings us right in. You mentioned the panto, and that brings us into the Tesco Christmas ad. 1,500 people complain over Santa with COVID vaccine passport. Now, have you seen this advertisement by Tesco?
Well, I think you sent it to me, didn't you? Yeah, it's an odd one.
Yeah, so it's to cut it down to what it is, and this doesn't have to be a massive topic because we've already touched on the vaccine. But basically, Tesco have advertised that you can get the vaccine at their place or whatever it is. This Christmas, nothing's stopping us. And it shows the public determined to enjoy a proper Christmas with family and friends after lockdown restrictions been together this year. So it's basically Santa has got his vaccine passport. He's trying to get into the shop, presumably. And he has a passport. He's got the vaccine. So people are obviously complaining now that, you're trying to influence us. This is the government playing.
I said that to you.
Did you send that to me?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm remembering it now. Yeah.
But like, is it a step too far? Should the company have let people, like the company is basically singling out customers there that have the vaccine as being their market? Do you know what I mean? That's the people they're targeting. So have the people who they're not targeting have a right to have an issue with it? Like should Santa remain just keep him away from politics, keep him away from agendas, keep him away from whatever. Just let him be Santa.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, but I also would agree that Tesco, if they want to do that, let them. I mean, I'm glad that nothing happened, that they didn't have to pull the ad. Let all the amount of complaints happen, but I'm glad that no one forced Tesco to withdraw the ad.
Yeah,
but I suppose is Santa being politicized? Maybe.
And as Robert Clan says, if you have an issue with it, stop shopping at Tesco.
Rather than complaining about
it. But like, I don't know. Like,
I don't have the internet.
We are trying to influence
I had an issue with the internet 20 years ago, and I've let the internet know that issue, and I have snubbed them for 20 plus years.
Yeah, but
who's suffering there?
No, Charlie. I think that if they are clearly trying to influence people to get the vaccine, they're clearly trying to target even now a younger generation to get the vaccine. And
they as in Tesco.
That's not a bad thing because it's what society accepts and it's what we want. But if an advertisement was to be run saying don't get the vaccine, do you think that would be allowed on air? Do you think that would stay on air?
No. And Facebook accounts are being shut down left, right and centre with people who are saying don't get the vaccine.
So is that wrong in your view? You said you were delighted it wasn't taken down, but is that because you share that view or are you open to free speech?
Total free speech. I don't think any kind of horror, hate stuff. I think we've discussed this before. No matter how offensive it is, it should be allowed to be up there. You just don't have to, deal with it or ignore. You just ignore it.
So
I don't
would be happy
I just want to clarify, Goldie. I don't think
that says don't get the vaccine and the reasons why.
Yes. Yeah, I would, of course.
Okay, interesting. Romo Clan asks, how does a vaccine have anything to do with politics? And I don't know if this is like a leading question or not, but it's everything to do with politics. Like the political swings and blows that are being landed over COVID and decisions and the number of people vaccinated and what's happened with vaccines and who's been given them. And it's been a massive political mess over the last 2 years, which I actually abhor. Is that the word? Abhor. What's the word I'm looking for, Charlie?
Yeah.
I abhor it because you hear Mary Lou McDonald from Sinn Féin, and she's giving out about lockdowns and this, that, and the other, and you're like, you do the exact same thing, but you're just using it because it's political clout. Like, it drives me fucking mad. Drives me mad.
Can we go back to the Santa thing, Goldie? I don't think Tesco were trying to encourage people to get the vaccine. Tesco were just advertising their product, and I'd say some guy in the studio just thought it up. I don't think he had a political or she had a political agenda, I'd imagine.
That's bullshit. They're targeting a market there. They're trying to say, come shop with us. It's safe to shop with us. Go get the vaccine. There's people paid big money in these studios, and
so what advantage for Tesco is
they
it
know
if,
exactly
if
what
you go
every
get the
word they say. They know what the lighting means. They know what the music means. Of course they know.
What advantage to Tesco is it if you're vaccinated?
Because society accepts that getting the vaccine is right. It's seen as progressive. It's seen as doing the best for your economy. It's seen as all these things. So, like, Tesco are jumping on it. Like, as we've seen over the years, advertising companies now stopping certain slogans and certain brand names because they're not accepted anymore. Do you know what I mean? That's all it is. If most people were anti-vaxxer, well, then Tesco would be putting out an ad saying don't get the vaccine because it would suit them. That's what's right.
Exactly. Yeah, because they just want to make the most amount of money that they can.
Ron McClan says the numbers prove the vaccine is right, not society. Yeah, but like society, like that's one and the same thing in my view. The numbers allow it to be accepted by society. If the numbers were the other way, society would be the other way.
Like
do you know what I mean? It's all about the trust in what we hear, the trust in the scientists, the trust. Most of society at the moment trusts what professionals are telling us. And what's interesting
see the ad
is
for a gay Santa.
Yes, we are literally. That's what the next one is. I thought it would move in closely and nicely. Our next story is
politicized.
Is related, and it's 100% political. Santa gets a boyfriend in Norwegian Christmas advert, prompting praise and tears. So this is an advertisement in Norway who are celebrating 50 years of the decriminalization of homosexuality. So it's obviously a momentous occasion. 50 years, it shows how progressive they are over the rest of some of our European countries and things like that. So to mark the occasion, they sent out an ad called When Harry Met Santa, which is obviously a reference to when Harry met Sally and the big orgasm scene and all that kind of stuff. And it tells the story of... have you seen the ad yourself, Charlie?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, in very... Actually, you explain to us, please.
So it kind of shows a Santa having a friend for is it 50 years? So it does show a long-term friendship developing between two men. Can
I stop you there, Charlie? It's clearly a relationship in every sense of the word. The opening scene is that this man who's in his, 30s, 40s maybe, 40s, 50s. I don't know.
He's a child when he meets him first, of course, which is dodgy.
No, I don't think he is a child when he meets him first. I don't think he is. Because
I saw it on the dark
that would kind of be a bit weird, Charlie. Like that Santa was preying on kids. It'd be a bit too fucking much for fucking Norway, I think. No, but it opens all up with this man walking into the living room and he meets Santa. Like he catches Santa delivering the presents, which, is obviously forbidden. And the two of them stare at each other and there's an instant attraction between them. And then next thing, Santa flies up the chimney. And
so Santa was delivering presents to a 30-year-old male in Norway.
Yeah, well, he might have had kids, or maybe he's delivering to adults. I don't know. It's
right.
He's there anyway, delivering stuff. Okay. And basically this guy who's in his 40s, let's say, has to wait another year to see him again. So he has this long distance by time relationship with Santa. It's actually a really clever ad now that I'm talking about it. It's almost like the time traveler's
the guy
wife.
Married, yeah.
Yeah, the guy isn't married. No, he's not married.
So did he kidnap these kids just to get Santa to visit him, or what?
No, Santa would come to his house every year because his family had kids. His brothers and sisters had kids.
Right.
But every year he'd try catch a glimpse of him, or they'd spend a couple of minutes with each other, or Santa would catch your man snoring while he was waiting for him to come, and he'd just
Sounds
say,
like the relationship me and your man from when I was young.
But yeah, it's kind of lovely in a way that they wait all year, and it shows during the year that your man breaks down because he misses him so much and he's crying and lonely and whatever. So it is magical in a kind of a way. Until eventually Santa, the guy writes a letter saying, all I want for Christmas is you, basically a rip-off of Mariah Carey, and posts it to Santa.
Who's not gay.
Mariah Carey is not, no. So he posts this letter off to Santa, and then next thing, Santa knock at the door, and this little girl or elf or something, I don't know, delivers presents, and he takes them in, and Santa's sitting there in the sitting room, and he's like, I got your letter, I got some help this year. It's basically saying that, I don't have to be out all night. So he gets to spend the whole day with Santa as per his Christmas wish. And then they fucking kiss. This really weird kiss.
It's a lovely kiss.
Yeah, but Santa's a beard and all. I wouldn't like to kiss somebody with a beard, but it's just
come all over their face.
It's a lovely, like if that was a man, you know what? If it wasn't Santa, I think it would be an amazing, really lovely ad, a display of love and affection and all that kind of shit. But I think it's a bit too much with Santa. Like, Santa's not gay. Why does he have to be gay now?
Like they're breaking up a marriage there. Like,
and that's the thing. Like, is it showing infidelity? Is Santa now?
That's what I thought when I
once
saw
a year looking to get his kicks, leaving Mrs. Claus.
That's why he makes all these presents. It is the ultimate cover story. When you think about it,
the
fucker works.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to walk the dog.
days a year.
I'm going to build all these presents and just to get
for a whole year, just so he can get his rocks off once in 50 years. He's been building up to it. I'm impressed.
Well, it's once every year, but
but he's only with the guy after 50 years, really.
Yeah. What do you think? Is it okay? Is it okay? Is it a potato, as one of our listeners would say? Like, does it matter? Is it okay for Santa to be gay? Or is it
joking apart from all of I do think it's a lovely ad. I think it's a lovely message. I think it's great. Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful ad, but I think it's a little much. I like, we're getting a message across. Things are changing. We don't need to be so extreme. Let Santa be Santa. Let him have his Mrs. at home, Mrs. Claus, and all his.
There's no rules that Santa has to be heterosexual. You can change the story. Yeah, I genuinely think it's a lovely ad.
We can change it, but should we change it?
Should and could. I don't know. But my hat is off to the Norwegian government and to the Norwegian Postal Service for doing it. And next year, he goes back to being heterosexual. You said it yourself, no one's 100% either way. I really think it's a great ad. I think.
Well, if he goes back, he's clearly bisexual. Well, he's clearly bisexual.
He must be bisexual if he was married to Mrs. Claus.
Well, no, that's not true. Maybe at a time when it wasn't acceptable to be gay, he did what a lot of gay men did and found a woman and had a marriage and had a pretense. Do you know? Maybe that's what he like. If Santa was gay all along, okay, fair enough. Come out and say you're gay. You're right. You know what, Charlie? I retract my statement. You're right. It's probably like your man. What's his name? Philip Schofield. You know what I mean? He was married. It's Santa Philip Schofield. No, but you know what I mean? Philip was married and he has a great relationship with his wife.
Oh man, I hope we're on This Morning tomorrow.
We could be on
This Morning. We finally hit the big time, and we're wearing the two old man masks.
We have to wear the old people masks.
And Philip Schofield is like, "I'm giving you your big break here, guys. Like, what's the big problem?" We're like, "We don't want our bosses to know. We'll be fucked." Do your research, Phil.
That'd be brilliant.
Listen to one of our shows.
We go on to Philip and Holly. Holly's amazing, isn't she? She's a great bit of
She's
stuff.
a great interviewer. Yeah,
and I mean stuff in the general sense, like her all round personality. Like she is so much fun.
Must be hard for her working now with Philip after all those years of him living a lie.
So. I don't think so. I think
Do you think she knew? They've had sex.
Potentially, yeah. Quite potentially, I'd say she knew. They're very close, and I love Philip. I think he's great.
He's fantastic. He's great.
So if Santa can come out, if Santa comes out and says, "Listen, lads, this isn't just a fucking, this isn't just an advertising marketing campaign. If he comes out and says, I was gay the whole time, and now I've only found the courage to come out, well, then, do you know what? My hat's off to you, Santa. My hat's off to you.
What was your problem with it? That Santa's sexuality shouldn't come into the conversation at all.
Charlie, I came into it blind. I came into it blind, and I came into it with a tunnel vision. And it was only when you opened up my mind to the reality. I came into a thing assuming that Santa was always straight, and there was no need to change it now to show how progressive you are. Like, let's just let things be normal. Like, if you're gay, okay, it's normal. If you're into fucking transsexuals, whatever your sexuality is, it's okay. It's normal. We don't have to keep making an issue out of it, because making an issue out of it, in my view, is counterproductive. It highlights the differences. Why are we even talking about it? Do you know what I mean? That's my view on it. But I know.
Actually, do you know what now? Can I say something?
I
think it's lovely that Santa's gay. I think I would have had a problem if it turned out that Santa was, let's say, in that ad, a transsexual. And I know that sounds so backward, but that would have kind of ruined my image of Santa as a child, I think. And I know that sounds terrible.
So you're actually you're only willing to accept so much.
Not even accept. I mean, whatever Santa is, he is, But I suppose I grew up with Santa as an unsexual person. I never thought about his sexuality. That's why.
Yeah, we don't fantasize about having sex with Santa, do we? Well, maybe straight males don't. Maybe girls do. I suppose girls do. There is definitely porn for that. There's definitely porn.
Yeah, and there's that song I saw, Mammy Kissing Santa Claus. So
yeah, but for you, he wasn't a sexual person.
Yeah. So when I saw this ad, right, it put Santa's sexuality in my mind, and I thought it was great. Yeah, am I really backward, Goldie, by saying I wouldn't have been so comfortable if Santa was a transsexual? Does that seem very backward now?
It doesn't, because you're entitled to your opinion, but I think it's somewhat hypocritical of you.
Because I totally support transsexuals, like totally. I just have this image of Santa, and he is a gender. He's a male. His sexuality I never considered before. Probably as well, wrongly, I never considered his ethnicity, because he supposedly lives, in the top of the North Pole.
You'd expect him to be like an Eskimo.
You'd expect him to be, to be white or whatever. But then, how come I've never questioned Jesus' ethnicity when, of all things, the one thing Jesus
I just want to apologize. I don't know if you're allowed to say Eskimo anymore, but if you're a native Norpolian,
I think they're called Inuit. That's what I mean. Inuit. Yeah. But do you know what I mean? So I apologize if it sounds very backward, but
you're entitled to your opinion, and that's perfectly fine. What do our viewers think out there? Santa, is it okay to be gay for Santa? I think it is. I think it is, and thanks for giving me a new view on that tonight, Charlie.
Good. I hope they don't go one step further and start suggesting other stuff next year.
Let's cross that bridge as it comes. Yeah. Maybe every 7 years. Every 7 years.
Every 7, yeah.
Meet the man who accidentally started an assassin hiring website.
Oh,
he just wanted a catchy website name. Now Bob hands people over to the police for trying to have their enemies killed. This is a story from the 17th of December this year in The Guardian. Talk to me about it, Charlie.
So The Guardian's a broadsheet website.
It's a bit more reputable than a tabloid, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think this is just, I love this story because it is just mental. Every step of it is ridiculous. So I don't believe half of the shit of what this guy says. And the fact that I know and that you know, and now that we're publicizing this article, means the guy has just shot himself in the foot, But we start off at the start then. So we have a guy, Bob Inez. And in 2005, during the kind of .com, boom, he bought a website domain name called rentahitman.com. And he was a guy right up our street. He was doing it as a pun, as a joke. He wasn't actually trying to create a website where people could go and kill their spouse or whatever. The website he was trying to set up a business where they were going to analyze, your website. They'd see what kind of people are going onto your website. What's your target base and your target audience and stuff. So Rent a Hitman, he was going to be checking the hits on your website. Yeah. So that's why he came up with the domain name, which I thought was really smart, really, really good. So that was years ago in 2005. The business never took off. It didn't work. I suppose that the bubble in the .com bubble burst, everything like that. And
Charlie, can I just interrupt you there? And I apologies for doing this, and I know I do.
Not at all.
I kind of do it a lot.
Who's
for you,
dead? Is it Heath Ledger?
It's not Heath Ledger. I'm just a little bit perturbed. We have Michael Key posting in our studio, and Michael purports to be from, and I'm going to try to say this in the best way I can. He purports to be from the triple K letter, fuck a bad N-word podcast. And he's been sharing our show. And while we appreciate people listening in and sharing our show, and we appreciate different people's opinions, Michael, I think that's a little bit much. And we'd probably prefer if you weren't a listener of our show. Am I right, Charlie?
I think we should maybe remove him.
Yeah, I think we should. No, we're not going to invite him as a speaker. We're not going to add him as an admin. We're going to block him for that.
Yeah, I think we should do that now.
Absolutely. It's done. So apologies. Continue on with your story.
Goldie, the repercussions for us there, Goldie, if our show is shared on that podcast, can we...
We can possibly... Listen, we'll speak to our lawyers after the show. Maybe you can get on to...
Serious conversation here, Goldie.
Oh yeah, serious conversation. We're going to consult our legal team.
But if he shared that right now, that's out there, yeah? Right now?
It potentially could be right there, yeah.
I think we might need to do something about that.
I think we do. I genuinely think we do. He's after being blocked there now. So, Charlie, continue on with your story.
No, seriously, Goldie, I think...
Charlie, we've done everything we can in relation to it. And we will follow up after the show.
Okay.
From a legal point of view.
Where was I?
So the man who accidentally started an assassin hiring website.
Yes. Do you want to take over there, Goldie?
Have you been a little bit rattled?
Big time. Yeah, I'll tell you later why.
Okay, no problem at all. So basically, this is a person who set up a website called rentahitman.com, and he sent it up as, I think, a little bit of a joke. And he started getting these letters and emails from people who actually wanted, to have their friends, family members, enemies killed. So he kind of thought nothing of it initially. He ignored it, and then he started getting kind of follow-up emails saying, what's the update here? This is the person's name. This is their address. This is my details. Like, given proper, actual information. He was in possession of their legal name, location, phone number, and he kind of thought, I have to do something about this. This is wrong. So he kind of followed her up and said, we're here from the Hitman Information Privacy Protection Act, HIPAA, and that your information is safe with us. So he kind of got all this more information out of her, and he played along with her until he eventually contacted the police and provided them with the information, and she was arrested for, I suppose, conspiracy to commit murder.
And fair play to him for doing that.
Absolutely. It's on one hand, how silly are people for kind of, I suppose we've all kind of Googled it, haven't we? We've all kind of Googled how to commit murder and get away with it. But in this particular instance, people were actually, he was getting an email from a genuine person who wanted to, organize the death of her husband. Are people that stupid that they would believe in this kind of website?
This is the thing, Goldie, and you know what it got me thinking of? Those Nigerian prince emails that you'll get periodically, or there's so many new versions of them, but I suppose they're essentially the Nigerian brother prince.
Yeah.
And I often think when you get them, I think surely they're not still doing this. No one out there can fall for this anymore.
But they do.
They must be, exactly. If people are still sending them out, they're not sending them out unless they're getting some response somewhere from someone who's stupid enough to fall for it.
The way I see it, if you send out 1,000 emails, 10,000 emails, which is literally the click of a button, and you get one person responding to you, you've hit the jackpot. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely worth their while.
Yeah. It's
worth their while to do it. And we wouldn't see the emails if it didn't happen. And we've seen it ourselves here. in the last couple of months in Ireland. People are taking advantage of the COVID situation and, uncertainty around employment. And we kind of get these messages and phone calls about our revenue that's owed and COVID this and COVID that. And, a lot of people have fell victim, I suppose, to these kind of frauds, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this guy, he's not even trying to trick anyone. In fact, he is the people coming on to him. Like it's just so ridiculous that these people deserve to be caught. But what I don't get about this guy is why he's now doing an interview with the Guardian website. If this is such a great way to catch potential murderers, he's kind of blown it now, hasn't he?
Well, I think from his point of view, he's saying that he set this up as a bit of a joke, and it kind of gained a bit of traction. And now he has, so it's rentahitman.com. And if you go onto the website, you can see kind of testimonials from people with their face blurred out about, thanks to this website, I got my husband killed who was unfaithful to me, or whatever the stories are. So his point of view is that it's just a satire thing. It's just a joke, that it's so in your face stupid that it can't be real.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But people are still falling for it. So is it what I'm wondering? I think the question you're asking me here is why has he suddenly come forward? Is it a case that, and this is kind of your logic, is that if he comes forward and says, this is my website and I'm going to help the police catch people who want to hire hitmen, he looks genuine. And does he have, maybe for every one that he reports, he has like 5 fucking big fucking contracts to kill people? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like in other words, in plain sight.
Yes. Is he secretly publicizing his website for real?
Because immediately the government is going to shut that shit down, aren't they? Rentahitman.com. Like, that's like,
and how come they haven't?
But if it comes across as satire, well then perhaps it's actually real and genuine. Wouldn't
it be genius if it was?
It would, in fairness. Charlie, we're going to move on to Cosso is an at-home male contraception device. Now, this is something that got sent to me, I think, today or yesterday, maybe. Have you seen this?
Just what you sent me this morning. Yeah, and
was it this morning that I sent it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a little Amazon Alexa or one of these kind of devices that you'd have, a home speaker type of thing. And what it does, it's an ultrasonic bath for temporary sterilization. So it's basically an alternative to wearing a condom or, getting your tubes tied or your hysterectomy or vasectomy, whatever it is, an alternative to pill. And it's essentially, as I described it earlier on, it's a Guinness Surger machine for your balls. Isn't it? So you before you have sex, you're supposed to go dip your balls into this thing, and it sends ultrasonic waves into your balls that makes you temporarily infertile. What do you think it is?
Well, it isn't 100%, the way these things are triple tested and so on. So we don't know how, it's never been tested on humans. But God, if it works, Goldie, it's going to be a gold mine for whoever has the patent for it, isn't it?
Is it though? Like, I don't know, Charlie. I really don't know. Like, we've all been in the situation last month, because I was going wrong with Clancy's last month. What I was going to say is, can you imagine we've all been in a situation where we're having sexual relations with somebody or whatever, and you have to stop to put on the condom, and it can be a real showstopper, can't it? It kills the moment. If you don't have it ready and ripped, if you're getting it, you might have it ready to go and ripped open. But if you don't, and you're fumbling for it and you're fucking trying to rip it and find out what side it's on, we've all put a condom on upside down, haven't we?
I've never put a condom on. I usually get other people to do it for me.
Fair enough. But we have these issues, and it really kills the mood. So I was thinking it's going to be fucking worse if we say, "Hang on a second, love, I'm just going to bath."
Do you think? Balls. I actually thought the opposite, because you can do it before you're getting with the lady.
Well, now that it lasts a month, yeah, absolutely, I'm all for it. My presumption was that it was only going to last in
half
an hour or two or whatever it would be. Like, do you know what I mean? And you have to stop the whole thing to say, "Hang on a second while I bat my balls." It's just a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if it lasts a month,
and
I'm all for it.
isn't it? But you see, this is if it's a big if, isn't it? Just because it works on animals, it won't work on us.
Well,
The other thing that
again, it comes down to trust in the product you have.
Yeah, and how do you test that?
We currently trust condoms. We currently trust the pill and various other contraceptions.
But to get people to test this is so dodgy. I mean, so you're fertile. You're testing it then by using the product and then having unprotected sex with someone.
Well, no.
If it doesn't work, it has to be unprotected.
You can
sex.
test it without actually having sex with somebody. Like, you can just masturbate and then they'll test your sperm as a result.
They say that. Come on. Who's going to...
Well,
now who's following? Now who's a sheep?
Will you go away? No, they'll have to properly test it.
Okay. Did you ever have that baby bottle warmer where it looks very like the thing you sit your balls in?
It kind of looks like that, doesn't it? It looks like a bottle warmer for kids. The bottle, can I just say, folks, the bottle warmer is probably one of the best inventions of the 20th century. Would you agree? For people who have kids,
I don't know.
For people who have kids,
for me.
Because when I had my first kid, you had to get up, right? And then you had to go fucking down. You're freezing your bollocks off, turning on the lights, boiling a fucking kettle, sticking the fucking bottle in the kettle, falling back asleep, waking up. The fucking thing is scalding, and you're like, do I give the baby scalded milk or will I fucking let it cool down? But if I let it cool down, I'm gonna have to listen to them fucking screaming. But if I scald them, they're probably going to scream longer. It's a fucking nightmare. But with the bottle warmer, you have it beside your bed, you wake up, you're half asleep, you pop the fucking thing in, you press a button, and it'll keep it that temperature for you for when you're ready to rock and roll. Absolutely best invention of the 20th century, in my view.
Yeah, it is a great invention, yeah.
But I suppose you breastfed, didn't you, as a father? I mean, I don't mean as a father, but your kids breastfed.
On post next year,
on Santa, fucking pure vodka. Oh, fuck's sake!
We withdraw that comment for any. We mean no offense to anybody there, whoever was affected by vodka or any alcoholic.
It was an opportunity to tell
alcoholism is a serious problem. And
I wasn't even insinuating alcoholism at all.
No. Although if pure vodka is coming out of your tits, you're either Michelle, whatever that swimmer is, and we probably get in trouble for that as well. Michelle, what was it? De Bruyne.
Michelle
Smith. Yeah, Michelle Smith. Now we'll have to apologise to her in the next show. Alcoholism is a serious illness, unless you're breastfeeding. Yeah,
absolutely it is. Now, you sent me another story, Charlie, and I'm not sure what your angle is on this one, so I'm going to run with it, but let's see where you take it. Better.com boss apologizes for firing 900 staff on Zoom call. Vishal Garg admits he failed to show adequate respect and appreciation for the employees he sacked.
Okay.
Where are we going with this?
I just thought, this guy's obviously a dick, yes, but he got so much abuse. I think it's a bit over the top. So he's Better.com. It's kind of it's an online mortgage business. Mm-hmm. And he fired 900 people in the Zoom call. Did you watch the short Zoom call?
I didn't.
Itself?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So it is a bit
Is it
strange.
an audio that we can play? Would you like me to play it?
Yes.
Can we? I don't know. Yeah. Can we play it? We'll play it.
Well, it certainly is. It might work on the link, yeah.
If you guys can let me know if you can hear that back at home. We just have an ad here and we'll just let it play and see. It's only a minute long, I believe, is it?
Yeah, about that, yeah. It's really hard. Like he's saying, basically, if you're one of the people in on this call, okay. No, we can't hear that, Goldie.
You can't hear that?
No. No.
Okay. Can the listeners hear it?
I can't anyway.
Okay, the listeners can't hear it, so thanks for that. So basically what he's doing, he's sitting at a table presumably in some kind of conference room, but it looks more like a canteen, to be honest with you. So it's probably not a nice or big company. And he's just sitting kind of laid back there, and he's talking about how difficult this is for him, and it's the second time to have to do it, which I suppose it says something in itself. And presumably he's going to fire them over Zoom. What's your problem?
Well, I just have a problem with the kind of vitriol that he got because of this. So he fired 900 people on a Zoom call at once.
Okay.
It is harsh and it is cold. But what was the guy supposed to do? It was an online website. These people work, they're not all working in a factory, or in an office. So I don't know what the big problem is here. Yes, he's a dick, but what else is he supposed to do? Was he supposed to individually contact those 900 people and tell them essentially the same thing?
No.
That you're fired.
No.
You're fired. No. Okay.
I think the answer is simply no. And that's why I'm surprised you brought it to me, because for me, what he's done is perfectly legitimate. Is it ideal? No. But it's the times we live in. Like we have situations where massive deals are being made over Zoom. Multi-billion-dollar deals are probably being done over Zoom. Everything is being done over Zoom or some equivalent. So, it's only natural that people would get fired over Zoom. Is it any more impersonal than having 900 people attend a fucking hotel suite or a hotel fucking conference room or whatever it is, and he tell them over a microphone?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand how he's got all this abuse. Now he's had to take a leave of absence or whatever from work as a result of the kind of reaction by this. Now, the weird thing is, after this call, he went onto some kind of posting forum under a pseudonym and said that all those employees were stealing from the company. And I suppose that's where he might have crossed the line.
He said they were stealing.
He said they were stealing from the company, that the company had done. They'd only found out these people were stealing from the company. Now, when he defines stealing, you'll see in a sec what he means. But
he means that they were costing the company profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because since they went working online, they were able to, I suppose, track and log their activity. And they were only working, these people, according to him, this anonymous guy, which was really him, that these people were working on average 2 hours a day, that they were only plugged into their computer 2 hours a day when they were working from home during the lockdowns. And they should have been in there for 8 hours and so on. So he wrote, they were stealing from you and stealing from our customers who pay the bills that pay our bills.
Yeah. You've got me turned again. Yeah, I suppose in a way he has. He has a point, doesn't he? If he can back up everything he's saying, if he has the proof, which I'm sure he does, because he's not going to put himself out there without doing it, well, then they have in a way betrayed the trust that he put in them, or that he was forced to put in them, to work at home and to be as productive for the company. And listen, there's no doubt that people take the piss a little bit, that they might take an extra long lunch, or they might sign in bed and whatever. But once it's not every moment of every day, or it's not continuous, and it's, the work is getting done as productively as it would otherwise, well then I don't see a problem with it. But if it's something that's actually so systemic and so routine for them that they don't do anything and the company's suffering, well then I think he has a point.
Yeah, I'd agree. So he just, he's clearly as well, I suppose, a bit of a dick. When you do watch the video, he makes firing them about himself. But yeah, this is just a crazy story with people who are the keyboard warriors who probably haven't, worked. Okay, maybe I don't want to make any presumptions, but keyboard warriors who get on because they hate a CEO by definition because he's the CEO.
Yeah,
and
it's like what we said earlier on the show, Charlie. The people who complain the most are the ones that are generally causing the issue in the first place.
Yeah,
yes. Do you know what I mean? It's just we see that time and time again.
Yeah,
it's just a self-fulfilling thing, I think, for them.
Yeah, and yet in this case, they've managed to get their way. This guy is now, I haven't said he's been fired, but he's on a leave of absence. God knows what the future is for him. I suppose he shouldn't have posted that comment anonymously. Like, he He should have maybe identified himself as the CEO. But I don't think the guy's done anything wrong. You know,
once he can back it up, once he can back up the stats, I don't think he's done anything wrong whatsoever. Yeah. It's definitely one of those kind of controversial things that could have gone either way from him. And we live in a time where it's really 50-50 with these things, isn't it? They really can go either way.
Yeah. But I read this brilliant comment on Reddit. So people were just going mental at the guy. But one, I'd love to have this guy in the show. Kausra wrote a really, really short, witty response to people giving out to the guy. Everyone was saying like he should be fired, this, that, and the other. And someone just types in, they don't get involved in any identifying, like, you know, the way people end up having a fight on these forums, like giving out, and they'll write in a comment directed at someone. He doesn't direct his comment at anyone. He just wrote, "It's a tough job firing 900 people over a 3-minute Zoom call. The vacation is needed to come back stronger." I was thinking, that's genius.
Because again, he's right, isn't he? Like on one hand, it's like, fuck you just lost your job. I'm going on holiday. Like, but on the other hand, you can see it is fucking stressful for him. You know, it would be a stressful thing to have to do. So you would need a break.
Yeah, but you'd have to be a sociopath not to feel that. Not to feel you're like every one of those people coming up to Christmas. It was a month before Christmas. Yeah. You know. Yeah, he would feel for them. He has to.
I get it. Like, you know, he needs to be a little bit more sensible there and not, you know, he needs to be seen to be doing the right thing. Like I remember working for a guy who was a multi-millionaire and had a lot of businesses around the city centre and stuff like that. And he drove a shitbox of a car. And even though he made so much money, he never... he looked like a fucking knacker.
That's not unusual.
He looked
to be
like a vagrant, for want of a better word. He looked like a vagrant because he didn't want
vagrant. I love that word.
He didn't want to display his wealth, and I think that's important because, you know, if you're working for, I don't know, I think what did we work for at one stage? £3 an hour or something.
It must have been more than that, but yeah, it was.
No, I think
£3.
Anyway. I think around £3 was when we started.
Wow,
mad. So, you know, when you're working on kind of minimum wage, you know, the last thing you want to see
these hands
is your boss
with these hands.
Wow. With those hands.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to see.
If I only knew that at the time. Oh man, I'm growing old.
Do you remember I had to fire you from the job?
I did, yeah. Because I was helping myself to the till.
No, you didn't. Charlie used to work for me, technically speaking. He still does, I suppose, on this show. But
yeah, you picked me off the street. I was a little boy from nowhere. You just picked me up.
He was. I gave him a job and I had to let him go because he was being a prick. It's basically literally like kicking somebody from a WhatsApp group now. It's the equivalent of kicking somebody from a WhatsApp group. What happens because you're being a stubborn fuck.
Now you do it on a Zoom call, wouldn't you?
Now I always take so much.
You'd have a Zoom call with me, right? And you'd say, right, to all of you on the Zoom call, and I'm like, Goldie, it's just me. And he's like, let me finish, please. Every one of you in on the Zoom call, I really feel bad to say this. You're all terminated, effective immediately.
So I would take so much pleasure from it. I was only thinking the other day as well, Charlie, when I was thinking of the 7-year thing.
You're my world, though.
We were the original content creators. When you think about it, we just back before YouTube, before TikTok, before Twitch, and before all the other variants, lesser known variants, we were making TikToks on camcorders. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We've done something for the last, I don't know, 20 years or whatever it is. And I remember a particular one. What was it? I entitled it a series of unfortunate events or something. Was that what it was?
Yes.
Something like that.
A series of a series of unfortunate events is a book. But I know, you came up with that title probably even before that guy wrote the book.
I probably did. I probably fucking did. And that's the thing. How many shows or how many ideas have we had that other fuckers took that we could have made millions on? But I remember the film. The film opened up with a picture of a sock on a floor, and it had this like orchestra music, really sad music, which is in fact one of the soundtracks from the Star Trek original motion picture soundtrack. So, but to listen to it, you wouldn't think it's Star Trek, but it's one of those. If you ever saw that first movie, it's shit. It's just literally music throughout the whole way through, and a voiceover of an appeal to donate money to help this sock that millions of socks every year lose their partner sock and whatever. It would be a TikTok sensation now. Maybe we should. We need to get that back.
Start off with "This is a sock." Is it something like that?
Yeah, this is a sock.
Yeah, and the tone of your voice.
This sock has lost its partner sock, something like that. And we appeal for a couple of euro a month. Genius stuff, really, back in the day. If only we actually if only we stuck to it, Charlie.
Yeah.
But I digress. Yeah. We're going to move on to the next story. A New Zealand city is taking its official wizard off the payroll after 2 decades. This article was in October of this year, so we're a little bit behind. But talk to me about this. This is Christchurch, New Zealand.
This is your story. You tell us. It's great.
It's my story, is it?
Yeah.
So this is in Christchurch, which is not in Dublin 8. It's in New Zealand. And it's parting ways with its official city wizard after more than 2 decades. His offensive remarks about women and the local government's new tourism strategy reportedly spelled his doom. So obviously it's a clickbait article straight away, isn't it? You look at it, they have a wizard. And of course, New Zealand being the home of, I want to say Game of Thrones, but I mean Lord of the Rings. This guy basically made a living out of being a wizard.
Yeah. For 20 years. I mean, that's a magic trick to do that in the first place. To get like a county council or whatever their version of a county council is to pay you. It wasn't something like the equivalent, I think, did it say in the post $11,000 a year?
Oh, he was paid, $11,000 a year to basically be a wizard, to walk around in a gown and a hat and have this staff or whatever. And you can see it's great for tourism. Like you look at the likes of America and you have the naked cowboy in New York, and you have to, it's something to go see, isn't it? It's definitely a good positive story. So for $11,000 a year, they're probably getting a bargain. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
But the McClelland, who is in part of the council, says the decision was a difficult one. She explained the Christchurch promotional landscape is changing to increasingly reflect our diverse communities and showcase a vibrant, diverse, modern city that is attractive to residents, domestic and international visitors, new businesses, and skilled migrant workers. So, what he actually said, and this is the comment that kind of got him fired. He says, "I love women. I forgive them all the time. I've never struck one yet. Never strike a woman because they bruise too easily is the first thing. And they'll tell the neighbours and their friends, and then you're in big trouble." And he said this at the screening of a current affairs show on TV. So it was, while somewhat humorous, it's just inappropriate in this day and age, isn't it?
Completely inappropriate, yeah. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, he would have been fine saying it. Wouldn't have even got a slap on the wrist.
No, and again, I don't know the manner in which he said it. Was he trying to tell a joke, or was he serious, or whatever? But he's basically lost his job. But he vows to continue to do it for free, because you got to imagine they can't stop him turning up,
dressed up in his gear,
and charging £5 for a photograph, or getting the tips, or whatever it is, that these people kind of make money on.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So is that why he'd keep going? He'll charge people independently to pose with him. Maybe this will even increase his draw appeal.
Well, now he's got a serious bit of publicity, and maybe he knew by making that comment he was going to get such public attention.
Yeah, that's true. No matter whether he said that comment as a joke or not, he must have known saying it was going to get him in trouble, I suppose. Presumably.
But again, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Whatever way it fell for him, he'd probably, I never knew New Zealand has a wizard.
No, neither did I.
Do I have a desire to go to New Zealand? Not particularly. I'd go, but I'm not sitting here going, shit, I have to do it before I die. But if I was to ever go now, I'd be like, oh, let's check out this wizard guy. Yeah. So I think it has worked for him.
Your story got me interested in what other crazy jobs are there out there? Mm-hmm. And this is a real job. Now, I should have known this because we've all seen videos of Tokyo when people are getting on the transport, the subway system or whatever at rush hour.
Yeah.
They're you know those trains, they're so overcrowded. Have you ever seen those videos where people are pushing them into the trams?
In Tokyo? Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen the videos. I also have, and I hope you're not trying to confuse these images, but I've also seen images of trains in India with people sitting on the roof. Just to be clear, that's not what you're insinuating here.
No.
Okay. Yeah, but I've seen
I'm
people like
talking about
sardines
Tokyo.
in
Yes.
Tokyo. Yeah.
Well, there's actually a job in there. Those I've seen people pushing them, and I thought it was just like citizens. You know, it's actually a job in those railways. There's a job of a subway pusher. I'll quote it here. Subway pusher. During rush hour, the trains are so overcrowded that they need subway pushers, or oshaya, that's obviously the Japanese word, to cram and push as many people as possible into a small space. Wow. The peak rush hour is unbelievable. I've been a few times and I made it up. So that's just someone quoting. So that's actually a job. Someone is paid to do that.
And are they wearing a uniform, or like, are you able to distinguish that this person is pushing me for a valid reason? And
I wonder.
Like, is this guy assaulting me?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
presumably they'd have a high vis vest at the minimum.
I've only seen one of those videos, and it was a while ago, so I can't remember. So I'd be lying. But isn't that mad? That being your job?
It's crazy, and it's amazing that these people accept it too. Do you know what I mean? It's just part of life.
Yeah.
You get.
But I suppose you get pushed, but you don't have to wait 20 minutes for the next train.
Yeah, you accept it. It's amazing the way the world has gone.
And here's the second crazy job, and I'll stop it at that. Don't worry.
Would you do that job?
Subway pusher? No, I'd be afraid that someone you push.
You'd have a sore back at the end of the day, wouldn't you? You'd have a sore.
Yeah.
Although they're lightweight, most of people
now.
from Asia. No, I'm not. It's not. They have a very healthy.
You've made a couple of comments about Asian people in the last show, and I'm just erring the side of caution. You don't want to alienate a substantial market.
But they are known to have a healthier lifestyle than I suppose Westerners would have. But go on, continue. The second job.
The second one is Southwest Airlines employs professional apologizers. Okay. So these people's job, and their job is, quote, to talk to passengers who are undergoing delays or dealing with cancelled flights. Their job is to de-escalate aggravated passengers and ensure them that the airline is doing its best to get them to their final destination. Now, I actually think that's good that they employ people like that, because if you've someone else doing it who's not good at obviously a professional apologizer must be basically someone who's good at reading people.
I'd be fucking terrible at that job.
Yeah,
I'm not. I'm not good.
As would I. Yeah.
It's trying to get me to say sorry is bad enough. But no, it's good because isn't it reassuring to have a face? Do you know what I mean? Like, when people are frustrated and in a gate waiting or whatever, they get aggro. You see them talking to themselves and huffing and puffing, and they go to this person at the counter and they take everything out on them. But if you've got somebody coming to you, letting out that pressure a little bit, it's almost like a valve, isn't it? That they're just slowly releasing the pressure before it gets too high.
Exactly. And then the other people who normally be trying to deal with complaints, like you say, those people at the gates, they can actually do their job and try to resolve whatever the actual issue is. So when I read it first, I thought, what a mental job, but I think it's great, yeah.
No, it's definitely good, but it's also indicative of the airline. The airline itself, being a budget airline, accepts that they're not going to get the same service as you would if you paid for, a more established or, like American Airlines versus Southwest or Spirit or Aer Lingus versus Ryanair type of thing. You buying those tickets, you do expect a lesser standard. Don't you? You get what you pay for,
and you accept it as well. Yeah.
So I think it's good that they do that, but it's very telling about their airline too.
Yeah. Although you could say that every airline will suffer this, and maybe they're the ones who are actually admitting it and holding their hands up and saying, right.
Yeah, but the cost effectiveness, like I'd imagine if you take, say, Aer Lingus, and I'm just saying that because it's just one I know. But if they don't employ somebody like that, because they've worked out that they really don't have that many complaints or problems, that to employ somebody to do that would actually cost us money. Whereas the other company, like, we're making so many cuts here that we can afford to do this here to keep our customers, and you know what I mean, like make it worthwhile for people to continue to buy with us, even though they're going to have these problems. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Our penultimate story tonight is one that Charlie sent in, and it's a broken toilet on the SpaceX capsule means astronauts will return to Earth in diapers.
Oh yeah, I have a feeling you might have sent this one, Goldie.
You've been saying that about every show or every episode or every article we've had tonight. I think you sent this to me. So the journey back from space is never easy, but the astronauts aboard the SpaceX capsule coming home will have an extra challenge to deal with. They don't have a working toilet. 4 members on the SpaceX crew, Dragon Endeavour, will be wearing diapers as they splash down in order to prevent anything else from splashing out too. I don't know what to think of this, Charlie. On one hand,
it's embarrassing for grown men to be in diapers.
It is embarrassing, but if I was told I had a chance to go to space and I had to wear a nappy or a diaper, I'd do it. Do you know what I mean? I've no problem with it. But what's kind of worrying to me is, excuse me, you want me to get in your ship that defies gravity and has enough power to exit the fucking atmosphere or whatever, but you can't fix the fucking toilet. Do you know what I mean? That's a red flag for me. Now, I know all about problems with toilets. I've had a toilet that's been on the blink for years.
Yeah.
And I genuinely have tried to get it fixed.
I mean, I hold my toilet when I bang it out before I leave my house to go to your house, and then sit there holding it for like the hours until I get home.
I know, but it's not like I've just left it. I've tried to get that fixed, and it's like...
So is this some mega big problem then? Plumbers have been like, they talk about that toilet in wherever you live. It's infamous.
Maybe I have the same jacks that was on the SpaceX capsule. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it is such a big issue. Like, it's not really that. It's not like serious technology, but maybe it's just unusual enough or unique enough.
Can I pin you down while you're here live on air? What is the problem with your toilet? Have you ever ascertained what that is? Because it's a conundrum to me.
I don't know. I think we just need to get a brand new one in its entirety, because it's, as I said, it's like Only Fools and Horses.
Thousands of euros.
It's like Only Fools and Horses. Do you remember Trigger? Trigger had the brush. He's sitting there in the cafe. He's a street sweeper, and he says to Del Boy, he says, "I've had this same brush for like 15 years." And Del Boy's like, "Jesus, that's impressive." And Trigger says, "Yeah, I've only changed the head 6 times and the handle 8 times." Like, do you know what I mean? It's just fucking quality. But that's essentially what's happened with my toilet. We've changed out every fucking part in it except the seat itself, and it still refuses to work correctly.
Yeah.
But there's kind of a knack to it now. I know how to flush a good shite down it. If you came up to my house, you might not know the technique, but
I can always use your other toilet. But the problem is,
the wall.
We only have
the wall beside the shed. Yeah, you can use that too if you want. Fuck's sake.
But I suppose you get to love your toilet. Maybe to go back to your story, is it maybe a good thing that the NASA can say, "Look, we don't give a shit about the toilet. We've put all our focus into getting, the rocket working. The toilet's a minor thing. They're leaving it as that."
Well, this is SpaceX.
We don't give a shit about the toilet. SpaceX. So this is your man's thing, to Elon Musk, is it?
SpaceX is Musk, isn't it? SpaceX is Musk.
Okay.
It's actually amazing that I have to think about that, because there's so many of them now today that you can actually confuse them, which is excellent. But this is not the first toilet issue.
Do you think you'll go into space and leave gravity in your lifetime as a private citizen?
Do I? Honestly, no. Like it is the dream. I really, really would be like, it would make my life. You know what I mean? I want to do it, and I've already talked about on the show about when I'm dead that I'd love to be ejected or jettisoned out into space. But do I realistically think it'll happen? No, it probably won't. But there's always hope, isn't there? But it's not the first toilet issue on a SpaceX Dragon capsule. An alarm went off on SpaceX all-tourist flight earlier this year, signaling a problem with the onboard waste management system. The vice president of SpaceX said later in the press conference that the spacecraft's urine storage system had become disconnected in flight, allowing pooled urine to enter a fan system, but it didn't cause any major problems on the flight. So I guess it's just one of these things that, you know, we're really pushing the boundaries of what man can do, and things are going to go wrong. And if it's a case of, the jacks doesn't work, but everybody gets up into space, survives, and comes down, and everything is okay, well then, you know, it's a small price to pay, isn't it? It's an issue you want to go wrong if something has to go wrong.
If something has to.
Would you do it
hear
yourself?
I'd never go to the toilet on any kind of flight. No, I'd never done a poo on an airplane.
I don't know if I have. I don't think I have either. I don't think I have.
Actually, I don't even think I've been on an airplane.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I went through my 6 years of secondary school without ever doing a poo.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus, like I used to love shitting in school. It was great. Really? Yeah, you get away for a minute.
I lived in fear, you know, horrible boys in those toilets.
Yeah, well, it's funny because my daughter won't do a shit in school, but my young fella shits like on probably twice a day in school. Like he fucking takes pride in having a shit in school. And the thing about them is that I think this year he's in there's a school which is a normal building, whatever, but then they have a couple of prefabs. I think most schools have those now. Prefabs. So the toilet is actually in the classroom itself. So you can only imagine the fucking stink.
The noise and everything. Jesus.
I know. And he goes at least, I think, twice a day. You can only imagine him putting his hand up. Actually, do you know what? This is the fucking God's honest truth. He doesn't put his hand up anymore. He just goes. And I'm like, what? And he's
just
like,
gives the nod to the teacher.
Yeah, I was like, does the teacher not give out to you? He's like, no, she knows I just need to go to the toilet. So he gets up. He's a little ignorant fuck. He just gets up, goes, shits all over the fucking bowl, and comes out with a big smile on his face. And he can't smell. That's the thing. He has no sense of fucking smell. So he has no idea of what he's making people endure. Or you know yourself when you go for a shit in somebody else's house, if you really have to.
And you're really conscious
now, you might spray a deodorant or something. He has no clue. Yeah. He's probably stinking that class out.
I suppose they can't leave deodorants in a primary school because the lads are going mental with it, wouldn't they?
But I must ask if the teachers brought in a bit of potpourri for the jacks or something, like, you know.
God.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Crazy
fair play to him. He's taken after his father.
He is. Lovely. He is. And tell me this, would you like to go to space, generally speaking?
Who wouldn't, Goldie, I suppose. Who wouldn't? But I remember watching a program with my kids about like what an astronaut has to do. And it's one of these kids' programs called Dick and Dom. And they put themselves in this thing that an astronaut has to go through to, it was something to do with gravity. And the thing spins around and around. Yeah. I don't think I could do that. I think I'd faint. So, but obviously I'd love to go into space. The thoughts of it would just be mind-blowing, wouldn't it? Who wouldn't? Yeah. I don't think anyone would say no to that, Goldie, would they? I'd
love to go. I definitely would love to go. So that brings us nicely into our last story before we do our agony aunt. And this really captured my attention. Alcor, right? This is not so much a story, but just I suppose a highlighting of fact. Alcor is making cryogenics accessible to everyone. Have questions before deciding, give us a call. So this is a company that will freeze your body upon your death, okay? Or it'll preserve your brain. One of the other, whichever you choose, upon your death. And it'll preserve your body and keep long-term care with the ultimate goal of possibly reviving you in the future. Now, this is something that you can do right now. It's €55 per month or $55 per month. Okay. And then there's life insurance available from $25 to $800 per month. What do you think it is, Charlie?
I think we might have discussed this before on the show, Goldie. I know you're a big believer in it and you're done upside down and all that kind of stuff. I suppose the new thing that you're saying here tonight is that there's a pay plan now, is what you're saying. There's
actually something where you can do it right now as we speak. You can actually sign up for this.
Not even wait till you die.
Well, no. Well, obviously you'd need to sign up beforehand.
Yeah.
It's alcor.org. Have a look at it, folks. Is this something you'd like to do, or do you think this is the ultimate scam?
No. Well, I don't think it's a scam. I'd like to hope that people believe, you believe that science and technology will advance to a stage where they can resuscitate frozen bodies. You're a big believer or a big hope for that. So I'd also think these people believe it. I don't think it's a scam.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to come back.
Okay. Well, Charlie, I'm just gonna leave you for 2 minutes, or a minute, if you don't mind, and I just want you, while I'm gone, just to talk to the people about the reasons why you wouldn't want to come back. Like, why don't you want to see what's in the future and things like that? Talk to me about that.
Okay. I suppose while Goldie's gone, I'd like to apologise for a lot of the stuff that Goldie has covered on the show tonight. His comments about Asian people crossed the line, and like Midnight in Baghdad, unreservedly apologise for that. We don't stand over it and we don't condone it. Sometimes it might be a lack of Goldie's, I suppose, worldwide awareness or social integrity, a lot of people call it. But I have to say, I've known Goldie for 25 years now, probably more than that. And he is a man with integrity. He believes firmly in what he says, and he believes in equal, the equality of every single human being. So any of his remarks that are made off the cuff, they're genuinely not intended to harm, with a couple of exceptions. Goldie's comments about women I find degrading and extremely sexualized, but that's possibly because of Goldie's upbringing. He came from a very, very unstable, background, the place, the family situation and so on. But I think he's coming back. So yeah, there'd be a lot of reasons then why people would believe in cryogenics. But I suppose the main thing is you want to see the future. You want to find out what's going to happen in the future.
Absolutely. And you did a sterling job there of holding the fort while I used the second toilet. Apologies for that, folks.
Right. The second toilet, the one that works. You don't even need to flush. At least the other one you're trying to flush. There's no cotton with your wall. Yeah.
It's all natural. But the thing here, Charlie, is, right, with this, you sign up for the plan. So you could sign up for the plan now, and in 40 years' time, you could die. And, it's your natural time to go. And these guys would step in and freeze you and possibly wake you up again. So it's not like you're going into a situation where you're freezing yourself today and losing out on the rest of your life, and you're not seeing your kids grow up and you're not getting all these experiences. You're getting all that plus the chance of coming back again. Why isn't that lucrative?
No, I'd imagine it will be lucrative. I do think they'll make money.
No, but I mean, on a personal level, why is that not something that would interest you?
For one reason, I would hate to wake up in a world. There's actually a great Philip K. Dick book about it, and I think a Robert Heinlein one as well. That you wake up in a world, let's say it's 1,000 years in the future or whatever. You don't know anybody. Forever Young is another example. And actually, the guy who wrote 2001, he wrote a couple of sequels to it. One of them is 3001. It's set 1,000 years after 2001. Mm-hmm. And the original guy, Dave, wakes up, and it's 1,000 years after the events of 2001. Nobody. So obviously, as a curiosity level, you want to find out. I know you're fascinated by this, Goldie. You want to see how far humans can go, what they can achieve.
Yeah.
But the idea of waking up in a world that I know no one, I have no connection with anyone. I think it would be a lonely existence.
You came into this world not knowing anyone.
You had your parents protecting you. You had a family network of brothers or aunts and stuff. You're literally on your own in this world, in your future world. Yeah, you'll have someone who shares your name, but how much do you give a shit about your great grandparent?
I think it would be fascinating to be able to meet our future generations and our future, like who my great grandkids, whatever it is. That would be phenomenal to see.
It would be fascinating. Yeah.
But even if you didn't meet them, I just want to see what we've achieved. I don't think I'd be lonely. I think I'd make connections. But I would, if I could afford it.
What if humans have evolved so far in that time that you seem an inferior being to them? You might be picturing that when you wake up, humans will be exactly like us, mentally, physically. But what if they're not?
Well, the fact that they're reviving us will show that they value us in some way. Now, whether that's as a link to their past, or
look at
respect their life, or are we going to be like in a museum? Yeah, we don't know that. That's the chance you take. But
But it's one you
It's a
would
chance.
take.
It's a chance I'm willing to take, absolutely. And if I could afford it, I'd do it. The only question remains here is it real? Because this company in itself could be a complete scam, and there's no one going to ever be alive to sue them, because they're saying that we're going to
unless they bring you back to life and you sue them because they broke some term.
You might sue them because they brought you back into a shit life or something. Yeah, there might be some future case. But realistically, right now, how could I, as a prosecutor, come to them and say, well, listen, what you're doing here is wrong, because you're taking subscriptions off people who are paying X amount of money a month for when they die, presumably in years to come. And the whole deal is that the technology will have developed where they can do it, and that hopefully someday they'll bring you back. Everything is just built on this hope that the technology is there or will be there.
It's a good point.
So it is an ingenious. If it is a scam, it's genius, because nobody can ever really.
It's like they're ahead of any kind of laws at the moment, because this is such a new idea. There is no legal criminal law or anything to outlaw them, or
no.
I suppose there's very little regulation
to say
of this.
That the technology won't exist. Who are we to say that?
So do you have any figures? Do you have any, how many people are currently paying this? Or
no, we don't have any of that information at all. But I did look into the company a little bit, and it was enlightening, I suppose, in a way, because when you're looking at the CEO of the company and the different directors, they're traditionally the people you would expect to meet, who believe in the flat earth, who believe in conspiracies and things like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to cast them all with the same brush, because I don't recall exactly. But these are people who are not necessarily medical professionals or scientists. Do you know what I mean? These are people who decide to set up a company and are, like science fiction and things like this. So I wouldn't have much confidence in their ability to deliver the product, but I absolutely love the idea.
Yeah,
and for me maybe that $55 a month is worth it for the hope that it could be true.
Yeah.
It's like a religion.
The two guys who set up PayPal are paying for it.
Are they?
The two founders of PayPal, yeah.
Well, there you go. That's like, why not? You have that money. Why not do it with the chance?
If you have, they have the money, don't they? It's different to you, where it'd be a substantial amount of your money. To them,
for them,
it's nothing, I suppose.
It's absolutely nothing. And I guess, we don't criticize churches for sending a basket around every Sunday at Mass, looking for a donation, for something that, it doesn't exist or that we can't prove. And it's literally all built on faith. So if people want to spend $55 a month and that gives them hope and faith that they can come back someday and makes their debt easier, well, then why not?
Yeah. Wow, they'll freeze your pet if you wish as well.
There you go. Interesting.
I'm looking at it here. They've got a way of weeding out wasters or people. Basically, it says here to apply. So there's a mandatory non-refundable application fee of $300.
Yeah.
So they might decide not to even go ahead with it and say, no, we don't believe you're a viable candidate. They've got $300.
Yeah, and I suppose because that's to stop anyone and everyone just emailing in, and they won't be able to deal with the workload.
Yeah. Interesting,
folks. We've got just under 7 minutes left of our show. We're going to move on to our final section that we did or did not miss out on last time. I can't remember, but here we go. Oh, I'm in agony. And
lovely.
So this is the section
of the show
where Goldie acts as an agony aunt. And Charlie, have we got anybody that's written into us this week?
We do. We had two people, but obviously under the terms of the agreement, we can only read out one.
Yep.
So I picked this one because it's the saddest, I suppose, Goldie. So I'll just go ahead and read it. The person got your name wrong. It's Dear Gladys, but obviously they meant Goldie.
That's okay.
Dear Goldie. No. My son and I have always had a good relationship in the last 11 years. I've always treated him with respect and tried not to dress provocatively around him. In the past 3 months, however, we've gotten extremely close, and whenever his father is out of town or with escorts, myself and my son like to cuddle up on the sofa and watch box sets, The Sopranos and Game of Thrones most recently. We sometimes have great tickling sessions, but now I think I'm falling in love with him. What do I do, Goldie? Do I take the next step and see if he feels the same way? Or would that risk breaking the wonderful mother-son bond that we've developed? I have no idea. Sorry, or would that risk breaking the wonderful mother-stepson bond we've developed? Apologies. I have no idea how a 15-year-old mind thinks. Yours, Anne.
So, Anne, thanks for writing into us. Can I ask, just to read over again, Charlie, has anything actually physically happened between the two of them?
Apart from tickling, no.
So what is it that, in your view here, is making her feel that there's a problem? Is she developing
She's
sexual
falling in
feelings?
love with them.
And how old is this stepson?
So do you think you can fall in love with someone and not develop sexual feelings?
I suppose in traditional sense it's not. No, you probably can't. But yeah, I it's a tough one, and I guess we all, and I'm just gonna go into it because what you're describing there sounds like a porn movie or something. Do you know what I mean? There's a massive section on.
I'd say the
massive section on
this.
stepmom and stepson and all that kind of stuff. So you can see from a sexual point of view how it could deem erotic, or the thoughts of it could be erotic. But the feelings itself are real, aren't they?
Seem to be, yeah. It's more than just sex for her. Like, I imagine Goldie, the son, has probably written to some, other magazine or agony aunt, and he's like, I think my stepmom fancies me. How can I get her to push this further or whatever?
Is there any indication of their ages? No.
Well, she does write at the end, I have no idea how a 15-year-old mind works. So.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're talking about a 15-year-old.
Well, she didn't say he was 15. I suppose that could be just something she's putting out there. He mightn't be 15.
But if he has the mind of a 15-year-old, then he's obviously a vulnerable person. So while your feelings of love might be genuine, they're highly inappropriate. So I wouldn't be advocating.
I wonder if she listens to our show then.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be aggravating or advocating going ahead with that kind of shit. But what Gladys sent this letter in. Gladys, was that her name?
No, she thought you were called Gladys.
Oh, she thought Anne is her name. So Anne sent this in, and what kind of struck me about her letter even more so is the fact that she says that her husband is out sleeping with prostitutes and
that's sad, yeah.
Doing these things. So she kind of accepts that. I think what
or is it revenge?
No, it's not a revenge thing, but she needs to address that. And while I can understand that she's formed a bond with her stepson while her husband is out doing these things, it's not healthy, and you need to address the actual core of the problem here. So I think you need to approach your husband and have a conversation with him and say, listen, this isn't on. Do you know what I mean? You can't be out hooring around. I'm not going to accept that. Or either do accept it, one or the other, but you definitely need to confront it head on. So while your feelings are definitely understandable, we all fall in love with people, or we can fall in love with people who we probably shouldn't, or we can't help how we feel, basically, is what I'm trying to say, Charlie. So, but what we can help is how we act on those feelings. So she needs to stay away from her stepson in that respect and have a more of a healthy relationship, stepmother-son relationship with him. But definitely needs to confront her main issue. And I hope, and I hope that please write into us in the new year if you have addressed those problems, or give us an update on it.
Yes, do, Anne.
Charlie, we've only got about 90 seconds left of the show. It's amazing to think that we're on episode 56 now. We're going into a new year in 2022. Hopefully things will get better from a pandemic point of view and things like that. But the
show won't anyway.
The show will remain abysmal. But it's always good.
But on that note, this is my penultimate episode of the show. So I suppose the next episode will be quite nostalgic and very sad for me anyway.
Are you definitely pulling out this time?
I think, I feel it's come to an end for me. I know you'll go on to bigger and better things.
That's fine, Charlie. That's fine. Yes. If you want to pull out, that's fine. It'll be the first time in your life you've done it. But absolutely, the show will endure.
We'll go on. Yes, and I'll listen to it, of course, all the time.
Much appreciated. So, folks, if you're interested in becoming my co-host, write into us here at midnightinbaghdad@gmail.com.
Oh, now you'll have Anne all over you.
Anne will be on to me again. Listen, thanks a million for listening to the show throughout the year, folks. It's been great fun. I look forward to it once a month, just as a bit of a release from all the real shit in life. So thanks very much. I won't say have a happy Christmas because I got in trouble for it earlier on. But folks, happy holidays. Have a great time. And we'll see you again in January with maybe some new guests from around the world. I've been Goldie Metcalf.
And I'm still Charlie Naughton.
And this has been Midnight in Baghdad. Good night.